But the Haitian American Caucus website is hacus.org, hacus.org, and /about. And make sure you reach out to them. If you are looking to help in any way, there are volunteer opportunities to even travel to Haiti to build schools and help out. And do not worry, there is an American embassy there that will take care of you, and if you are in need when you get there. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one of our sponsors, or our sponsor for this evening, again, as I mentioned, is the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber of Commerce. And we're fortunate enough to have the membership director for the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber of Commerce here on the line with us. And I want to bring her in because today the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber took part in, I think, a scholarship fair that happens every year. This year it was held at the War Memorial off of US 1. And we want to bring Miss Andrea Gentry. Andrea, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Good evening.
Well, you're very welcome. Well, Andrea, about who you are and the organization that you represent and what you did today. How did the Nonprofit Chamber of South Florida assist in the scholarship fair, and who were the partners in that?
Okay, I was over at the Pat Larkin Center, which is up in Pompano. It is for the Infinite Scholars Program, which comes down to the area every year. It is a nonprofit organization that has a mission for providing scholarships to all students, especially low-income and first-generation high school students, to have them accomplish their high school goals. I have been volunteering with the program for a couple of years, and colleges from all over the country come here to recruit students. All the students have to do is show up and dress for success, come with their high school transcripts, their ACT and SAT scores, 2 letters of recommendation, and their resumes. A couple of the colleges that were there were Livingston College, University of Central Florida. The Army, of course, was there because they partner with Infinite Scholars, Virginia State, Tuskegee, Bethune-Cookman. I can go on and on. St. Louis University, SAMU, Lincoln, Kaiser. Matter of fact, NBC Channel 4 was there taking pictures, and I caught the segment at 5 o'clock. And the students go up and meet with the recruiters, and on the spot, they are awarded scholarships. It is the most amazing morning you can be a part of. And these students walk out with $20,000. They walk out with $20,000 presidential scholarships, which is full boat, $40,000, and they can get it from a couple different universities, and then they make a choice of where they want to go.
The host has joined the conference.
I'm not.
Hi, Andrea. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, this is Laura. Apparently, Daniel's having some technical difficulties. So that's amazing what you've.
Hi, guys. We're back on. I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties, as Laura just said.
Okay.
So Andrea, I do have a few questions for you. Where can we see coverage of events?
NBC Channel 4 came in and took pictures and spoke to the students. I was able to catch the little tiny segment at 5 o'clock. I do not know whether they are going to be rebroadcasting it at 11. I hope so. They basically took pictures of some of the kids and interviewed some of them in the main room. I hope it'll be broadcasted again at 11, but like I said, it was brief. But some of the high schools that were there was Ely High, Plantation High, Hallandale, Boyd Anderson. It's just amazing to see that these kids walk away with hundreds of thousands of scholarships, 40,000, 50,000, 20,000. It's amazing. And Infinite Scholars will be going up to Orlando tonight. They'll be going up to Jacksonville. They travel all over.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, who was the director? Who went ahead and created this program? I think you mentioned her name.
It comes out of St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay. So, if we expect some more events like this happening for those that did not attend this year, because there's still things happening.
This is the only one that will be down here in our area this year. They will be coming back next.
Line muted. Line unmuted.
Orlando. And then there's
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. If someone's on speakerphone, we do need you to come off speakerphone and to turn all of your devices off in the background. This is why we're having technical difficulties. So we need to make sure that happens. All right. So let's move on with the show. I think I do apologize for the difficulties we're having, but we're going to go ahead and continue with our show. And ladies and gentlemen, That was Andrea Jackson. She is the membership director at the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber of Commerce, and they're sponsoring this episode this evening. And we're going to tell you why they're doing that in just a little while. And so now we're about to the part of the show where we bring on our guest every single week. Last year we had my good friend Harriet Lerman, the Honorable Harriet Lerman, a former state representative from the great state of Maine, who runs a radio show down in West Palm Beach at the WEI network called Voice of the People. And she talked about her experience as a state legislator and the 911 bill, which she's the mother of, and how she created 911 and emergency reform in her small yet amazing state. And she went ahead and talked about some of the guests that she had on her show and what she's going to be doing. We want to make sure we support Harriet as well. And her show is on the WEI Network, and that's the WEInetwork.com. And you can listen to the Voice of the People with the show host Harriet Lerman at 2 o'clock p.m. Tuesdays. So we follow her show in the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time that we bring on our guest, Mr. Tony Bell. And I want to go ahead and read out his bio before we welcome him to Information Nation, because truly he is a man of professionalism and a man of expertise. And he has done some great work here in the nonprofit industry. Just want to tell you a little bit about Mr. Bell. Tony Bell is personally committed to effecting positive change for the nonprofit organizations by utilizing the skills developed from 23 years of organizational leadership experience. Mr. Bell has received numerous national and local awards, including a National Excellence Award from the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and he is the two-time recipient of the American Express Chairman's Award for Quality. Mr. Bell has provided his time and talent to numerous nonprofit organizations, both locally and statewide as well as nationally. And some of them include the William J. Clinton Foundation, the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation, the Community Foundation of Broward, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, National Multiple Sclerosis Society, Rebuilding Together of Broward County Healthy Start Coalition, MHA of Southeast Florida, Leadership Broward Foundation, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, AIDS Walk of Chicago, the Las Olas Association, the Unforgettable Prom Foundation, the one that's dear to my heart, the Heart Gallery of Broward, the City of Hallandale Beach, and, of course, the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce. During Mr. Bell's nonprofit career, he's assisted in raising millions of dollars to further the mission and capacity building of nonprofit agencies and organizations. He utilizes fresh and cutting-edge philosophies coupled with proven traditional approaches. Mr. Bell's stellar reputation, passion for nonprofits, proven creative strategies, and uncompromising commitment to excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a mouthful, but it needed to be said. I'm very happy and pleased to welcome my friend, Mr. Tony Bell, of Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy, to Information Nation. Tony, are you there?
I am here, Daniel. Thank you.
Tony, that was a mouthful. Boy, I tell you. I'm thrilled that you've taken time to join me on my show. There is some great information that nonprofits can learn from you. There's some great skill sets and resources that they can get from somebody of your expertise. We want to talk about that a little bit today. And we do have a few other callers here on the line, and I know that they want to ask some questions. So before I ask mine, I want to get out the pin so that we're ready for them when they call in. We have 857-232-0159. The call-in pin is 824-234. Once again, station number 857-232-0159. And the call-in pin is 824-234 if you'd like to ask Mr. Bell a conversation, get some information, and join the conversation. So, Tony, tell me a little about some of the things that you're doing right now, I know you have some exciting news, but we want to leave that it's a little bit later. But tell me a little about a few of the things that you're doing. Even up to 6:30 this evening, you were in a board meeting. Go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, so I was in a board meeting, and thank goodness for technology, because I'm sitting in my car on Los Olas Boulevard so that we can have this great opportunity to talk to one another. Yeah, no, of course, it's awesome. It's awesome. So again, Daniel, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for inviting me. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to talk about what I do and to kind of share my passion for the nonprofit sector. When I first decided to make that transition to for-profit to nonprofit, it was done after 13 years of working for American Express. And for anyone that might be listening that works for American Express, they know, as I did, just how philanthropic that company is, how it builds those kinds of values into its employees. So working with American Express, I got assigned to serve on certain boards, and that's really where my kind of nonprofit passion was born, was through those experiences working with different nonprofits in Chicago, but more specifically working with the AIDS Walk Chicago and seeing the impact that it had on the benefiting agencies, and of course seeing the impact that those agencies had on the community. So when it was kind of time for me to leave American Express, it just seemed natural for me to jump into the nonprofit sector, and I've been working with nonprofits since 1998. And really haven't looked back. I mean, at this point in time, again, I really just couldn't imagine doing anything else. And I think one of the things that I'm proud about in terms of what I've done thus far in the sector is that, I've had the opportunity to work for all types of nonprofit organizations. So before I started the consulting business, I had the great privilege of working for national organizations at a national level. I had the privilege of working for national organizations at a chapter level. I had the privilege of working for nonprofits where I was the only employee, with very limited resources, which is something that most nonprofits know all about. So it's really just been a great and rewarding opportunity working in this sector.
Well, I'm sure that the organizations that you work with on a daily basis feel the same way about working with you. And we have someone else from the nonprofit chamber here. Again, the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber is sponsoring our show this evening here on Information Nation. And I'd like to bring in Laura Cromartie. You heard from her shortly before when she took charge and made sure that the show continued during some technical difficulties. And that is the kind of people that work for nonprofits, ladies and gentlemen. And Tony, I know you can speak to that. They take charge when in the midst of a storm and when things seem like they're not working, and they come on in and they make things better. And I think that's what nonprofits are here to do. And Tony, I want to talk to you about something you posted on your Facebook page recently. It was a billboard. And we want to mention that to you, why you felt the need to do that. But let's bring on Laura Cromartie. Laura, are you there? Cromartie.
I am here.
Hi, Laura. Do you have a question for Tony? And introduce yourself to the listeners here on Vibe Drive and Information Nation.
Oh, absolutely. I'm Laura Cromartie, and I am the marketing director for the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber. And I am lucky enough to have known Tony for quite some time. And before I ask the question, I just wanted to say that Tony was nothing but kind and sweet to me when he left the Los Olas Association of his own validity, and then came into my office and showed me how to do my job. And so that was amazing. Not many people would do that, and he is just that kind of person. And he taught me basically everything that I knew at that point. So yes, I'm so pleased to be able to call him my friend, and I completely support everything that he supports as well. So, yeah,
Laura, that sounds wonderful. And I'm so glad to our listeners that are listening. Sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Cromery, but those that are listening, we bring on our guests not to praise them, even though that they deserve it, but to show you that there are individuals out there that are actually doing something and that they have the access to the information that we are bringing you. I want to make sure that our listeners are clear and understand why we have this show. It's to make sure that we bring the movers and shakers that know the information, make it available to you. It's all about amplifying issues and amplifying the voices that are very important to all of us. So, Laura, did you have a question for Tony?
I did, actually. I have one question. And I know Tony very well, but here's my question for him. After all that he has accomplished, which is a million things, after, how he has solidified himself within the community, how well-loved he is, my question, just to be curious, is what is really, really happy that you look back on and go, oh my goodness, like that was the one. So that is my question to you.
Well, first, thank you for all of those kind words. I'm kind of looking in the mirror going, I can't really do that. But thank you for that. It's very generous of you to say that. And I think at the core of all of us, we want, this is my hope, right, is that at our core, we all want to see others succeed, and we all want to do what we can to help others succeed. So it was just very natural for me to be there for you to whatever extent you may or may not have needed the support. But thank you so much for saying all those kind things. Wow. So that's a great question and a pretty tough one. And I think there are two answers to that. One is that I am just thrilled that I took the chance and created Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy. That was a really big deal for me to step out on my own and to believe enough in myself that I could be relevant in this sector. And part of the reason why I did that is because as much as I love all of the organizations that I've worked for over the years, I felt like my true calling and my legacy could not be fulfilled just working for one organization, and that my destiny was to put a much larger footprint on the sector. So that was part of kind of the motivation for me to start Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy. And just a quick little side note, so the name actually comes from the nickname that was given to me at the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce. So I have been nicknamed by a number of people there as Mr. Nonprofit. And it was pretty funny. I was, in that mode where I was trying to come up with a clever name for the consulting business. And I literally had, all of my pieces of paper with different words and trying to connect them to come up with something really cool and something really edgy and something nobody else had thought about, which meant that 90% of them didn't at all define what I did. So while I was going through that process, I got a call from my good friend Jen Clausen at the WASI Foundation. I answered the phone, I said hello, and Jen's like, hey, Mr. Nonprofit, what are you doing? And from there, the name was born. So I just wanted to share because I always love telling people that story. But so starting Mr. Nonprofit has been big, and I'm just proud of everything. But I can tell you one of the most fascinating experiences I've had since starting Mr. Nonprofit was the opportunity that I had to travel to Monaco and work on the first collaborative fundraising event between the William J. Clinton Foundation and the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation. So that was just one of those unreal experiences that you really don't get to have unless you live your life with your arms wide open and you're willing to embrace the things that come towards you. It was just a weird kind of series of events, but I kept an open mind and maintained a relationship with some folks for a number of years. And one day I get the phone call and they are like, Tony, we're doing this event in Monaco and we want you to be a part of it. So that was pretty fascinating.
I think, go on, Tony.
No, I was just going to say, so it's really hard to pin down any one thing, but those two things in particular really stand out, just the creation of Mr. Nonprofit and that amazing experience to travel to Monaco to work on that event.
Well, my favorite memory is of you in a tuxedo riding down a Segway on Las Olas, because that's the kind of guy that you are.
Whatever it takes, I definitely have that whatever it takes mentality. I like telling folks the story when I worked for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it was with the Multiple Sclerosis Society. When I worked for the Multiple Sclerosis Society, I was responsible for some of our walk locations, but for team development for all of the walk locations. So on Halloween one year, it was the year of Austin Powers, I dressed up in an Austin Powers costume and went around and delivered candy to all of our top, team fundraisers in the Tri-County area. And I'm coming back from Palm Beach on 95, and I got a flat tire. So there I was on the side of 95, changing my flat tire in my blue velvet Austin Powers costume. So,
that's fantastic.
Groovy. That's a funny story. I like what you said, Tony, about doing whatever it takes. And I'd like to mention your website, because there's something, I want all listeners to go to your website. It's MrNonprofitConsultancy.com. That's MISTER, nonprofitconsultancy.com. And you said doing whatever it takes. Well, according to your website and to the many people that have already praised you this evening, you are considered the connector of dots and the purveyor of possibilities. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why those statements? And, I want to mention some of the testimonials. But, Tony, why those statements? They're so inspirational. Connector of dots and purveyor of possibilities.
Purveyor of possibilities, I live my life from a perception of abundance, right? So I don't believe that you cannot successfully lead a nonprofit with a poverty mentality, right? It can't be that the sky is always falling. So when I say purveyor of possibilities, it's a lot of what I do with my clients is I go in and really just take a look at the abundance of opportunities that really exist that are right there in front of their faces, help them recognize those opportunities, and then help them understand how to maximize them. So that's where kind of purveyor of possibilities comes from. And connector of dots, I learned a lot through my membership at the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce and during the time that I served on their board of directors, and the fact that I was able to be one of the founding members of their nonprofit resource group, which now meets there once a month, and it's just very robust. So the connectors of dots really comes from my ability, and many people share this, I know, but just in talking to individuals and really being able to hone in on their passions and their skills, and recognizing when those passions and skills can be beneficial to others. So that's kind of the connector of dots.
Awesome. Well, Tony, you've really clarified a lot of that today, and we do have a few more questions for you. And then you have some really big news, don't you?
I guess I do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to leave some people hanging just for a little while. But, Tony, you recently posted on your Facebook an image from the Charity Defense Fund.
Yeah.
Yes. Tell us a little about what that billboard said. And we're going to post that link of that image on our Facebook and on the RobinLindsProductions.com blog that we have, because it's important that that statement was very, very, very impactful. So tell us a little about why you posted that and what it said.
Yeah, well, Daniel, I'm going to ask you, do you have the image in front of you? Because I can't remember. I don't want to mess
Not a problem. I will pull it up right now. Sure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a picture of a billboard, and the statement given was an ad for the Charity Defense Fund. And Tony, maybe you can answer the question of why you felt the need to post that, but I'll read what it said. It says, don't ask if charity has low overhead. Ask if it has a big impact. And you responded that you couldn't agree more. Thank you, charity. Tell us why you posted that and why more people need to have that mentality.
Yeah, I mean, so that comes, the charity defense, so that comes from Dan Pallotta, who I am a huge fan of. And if any of you get a chance, I really encourage you to Google Dan Pallotta and his TED Talk. It's really inspiring and encourages you to take a different look at the nonprofit sector. And a lot of the work and it ties in so nicely with a lot of the work that I do, because when I go in and work with nonprofits, I'm constantly instilling in them the fact that they are a business. And the only thing that separates them from Nike or any for-profit is their 501c3 or their tax-exempt status. But everything else about what they do needs to be looked at, managed, and thought of as a business. And so Dan very much supports that philosophy and really has been the champion in the sector for that philosophy. And I agree with that. Why do we look at highly effective nonprofits that are delivering on their mission, that are making a difference in the communities that they serve? Why do we look at their financials and say that executive director is getting paid too much? No one looks at the CEO of a for-profit and says, we got to do something about that salary. That's outrageous. And that's not to say that I'm an advocate of outrageous salaries, but I am very supportive of paying people for the talent that they bring to an organization and for the impact that they have. So it frustrates me sometimes, and especially when you're talking to donors, and donors are like, well, what are your administrative costs? And they look at a salary, potentially, look at a salary for the executive director and think that that's too high. Our folks that work in the nonprofit sector and those organizations, again, that are delivering on their mission and having the impact that they have in their community, it in my opinion, totally justifies them being paid the equivalent to what someone in a for-profit would be paid to deliver the same results. So there you go.
Well, there you go. Well, let me ask you another question. And we're going to announce your big news, and we have some more callers here on the line. Let's talk about your time real quick at the Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, where Dan Lindenblay currently serves, who happens, I think a few of us on the call know Dan quite well as well. Dan currently serves as the president and CEO of the Great Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce. And with the work that you've done with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber, he writes, there's no doubt in my mind that when it comes to nonprofit interaction, Mr. BEALL at Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy is in a league of his own. That's a very, very high-ranking statement from somebody who, such as Dan, who is so well-known, so well-respected. Tell us what you did to earn that respect. Why, besides of all the other great things, what was your role at the nonprofit chamber where you were, with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber? What was your role there? How did you get involved, and how did you rise to such esteem there?
Well, I got involved because it made sense, for the nonprofit that I was working with at the time, and I was in a development role. If you want to connect with businesses, chambers are a great way to do that. And the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber really made the effort and made it part of their strategy to create an opportunity to build a bridge between for-profits and nonprofits. So it was really just kind of like all of the stars were aligned, at the right time. So right as I was kind of getting more involved in the chamber was the same time that the WASI Foundation came in and partnered with the chamber, and we started the monthly nonprofit resource group. And then I was invited to serve on the board of directors for the chamber and worked on a project called Project 100. And that was a celebration of the chamber's 100-year anniversary. But what we did was in Project 100, we had a group of about 30 to 40 volunteers, and we just went out into the community and begged and borrowed and did whatever it was going to take the facility that the chamber owns and bring it into, modern times. So we worked on just kind of upgrading what that facility looks like. So I was part of that Project 100 team. And then I also had done some work with Dan to kind of strategize on how they could more effectively utilize a chamber foundation that they have and how they might look at restructuring. So although that didn't necessarily happen, I had worked closely with Dan and the board at the time on taking a look at how they might restructure the chamber and kind of relaunch a chamber foundation that had been sitting dormant for a while.
Awesome.
Dan's always been a big supporter, and I'm so grateful for what the chamber has done to help support, Mr. Nonprofit and me getting this business off the ground.
Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that he's been there to support you, and again, so many of us, like Dan, are right there behind him and behind you. So let's do this. This is a perfect segue into our big news. And I think, there is big news. And we do have another call on the line, and I do want to bring her on. But let's go ahead and announce the big news. And callers, calling numbers 1-857-232-0159. Again, station number 857-232-0159. Call in PIN to ask Mr. Bell a question regarding his big news and his work, outstanding work with Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy, 824-234. Mr. Bell, Tony, do you want to tell everyone kind of about what you've been thinking about and pondering about and what your next step is professionally while, of course, continuing your work with all the other organizations you work with that hopefully from what your big news is going to be joining with you in that, but with Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy. Tell us, Tony, we're all ears.
Sure. So, being relevant is really important to me, and finding ways to give back are very important to me. And when your business is providing services to nonprofits, it can be a little bit challenging in terms of how do I do that, right? So I was thrilled to receive a call a few months ago from Daniel asking me if I would consider serving as president of the board for the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber of Commerce. And given the fact that I always refer to myself as a one-man marching band, but since I am right now the sole employee and chief cook and bottle washer for Mr. Nonprofit, I was a little concerned about the bandwidth that I would have to be effective. But I worked through that, and so I'm thrilled and honored that this year I will serve as the president for the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber of Commerce.
Well, that is some big news, and we're glad that you accepted it live here on Vibes Live. Listeners listening here locally, statewide, and all around the world, because Robinson Productions and Vibes Live has broadcasted all over. They just reached 400,000 listeners, ladies and gentlemen, and that's a testament of its own. We're glad to be here on Robin Lynch Productions, Vibes Live radio station. You heard it here first on Vibes Live that Mr. Tony Bell will be the new president and chairman of the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber of Commerce. And we're excited to have you. And I have our past guest, Tony, who was the Honorable Harry Lerman, former state representative of the state of Maine on. And I think she wants to give you some congratulations and wish you some good luck and maybe become a guest on her show in your new capacity. Rep. Lerman, are you there?
I'm here.
Well, Rep. Lerman, how are you today?
I'm okay. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Do you have something to tell Tony and wish him?
No, I've never met Tony. I've never met Tony before in my life. I did not know him, and I can commend him for taking this task on, and congratulations. The Chamber of Commerce is a very important part of our community, which absolutely keeps everything humming and beautiful, and inviting people to come to the area. It's a perfectly beautiful thing to be involved in. And I wish you well.
Well, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that you took the time to call in to say that. That means a lot. Thank you.
Welcome very much.
Awesome.
And
go ahead.
Well, we had a wonderful show today myself. I had candidate Alec Freeman on, and he's running for the sheriff of Palm Beach County. And it was a very exciting, busy show. He handled it fabulously. We gave him rapid-fire questions, and he was very comfortable and relaxed, and he did an outstanding job, and I think he's got some very nice plans to be the sheriff of Palm Beach County. It's a big job. You've got 3,500 to 4,000 employees. You're like the president of your own city. And so that is a huge undertaking for anyone to take that job on. I commend him for doing it. And he was very concerned about the police and what's happening to the police and what's happening in the black community. And he's got some ideas how he can maybe solve some of that.
Well, awesome, Harriet. We actually am thrilled that you brought that up. We have Mr. Alex Freeman coming on in our show in March, so that's awesome. We look forward to asking him some other questions and to get our viewers and listeners that information as well. So thank you so much for calling in. We're so glad to support you at WER Network, and so glad you called in to support us once again. So here's what we're going to do now. I'm going to bring in, I guess, Laura Cromarty and Andrea Gentry, who will be your marketing director and membership director at the Chamber. You already heard from them today. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is why the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring this episode. We broke the news here first on Vibes Live, and Mr. Tony Bell of Mr. Nonprofit Consultancy has accepted the role of chairman and president for 2015 at the South Florida Nonprofit Chamber. Laura and Andrea, tell me, you wonderful ladies, are you ready for a great leader?
Yes, I am.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, I plan to work with you all as well, and we're going to be a great team. So, ladies and gentlemen, here are some links. We're going to conclude our show. It's just about that time. Mr. NonprofitConsultancy.com is MISTER, NonprofitConsultancy.com, and the Chamber website has changed this year. It is SFLGives, GIVES.org. And that will be up shortly, ladies and gentlemen. We have our wonderful partner, Whitney Rawls. And Laura, you can talk about Whitney on the and his expertise. And I believe, Tony, you know Whitney Rawls as well. From Notion Motion Corporation. They donated our site once before, and they're donating it once again. So that's amazing. Shortly. He's amazing. So that's fantastic. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, we want to make sure you get the information. We talked about this evening, just a real quick recap. We talked about the 5th year anniversary of the Haiti earthquake, and we sent out some links. If you're willing to help, or you in any way, whether it be financial, capabilities of sending a donation or volunteering, I'm sure that the Haitian American Caucus and Recycle for Haiti Foundation would love to have you. Their links will be posted on both the Robin Lins Productions blog for Information Nation and our Facebook Information Nation radio show. But again, once again, it is the Recycle for Haiti.org and HACUS.org/about for the Haitian American Caucus. And we will reiterate that this is a show that is all about getting you the information. And as long as I have a breath and the show continues, we will have some great guests on. It will get you information like the scholarship fair that Ms. Gentry talked about today. And I'd like to tell you who our next guest is going to be, because our next guest is sure to be amazing. And I want to give you a quick lineup for the next couple weeks, because we want to make sure that this show is promoted. If you have an event, if you have some information that you want to send out, please send it to informationnationradioshow@gmail.com. Feel free to do that, and we'll send it out for you, and we'll talk about it on air, live here on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Our next guest is going to be Linda Gallen. She's the president of the DW Democratic Women's Club of Southwest Broward. And she'll be talking a little about what women are doing to shape the 2016 election. Because that's coming up quick. We've talked about it a little bit before with Rep. Lerman here, the Honorable Harriet Lerman, who was our first guest. What's happening in the race to the White House in 2016, and a lot of changes since then. So we were looking forward to having Miss Gallen on. And then on the 27th, Tuesday the 27th, 7 p.m., we'll be having my very good friend, Senator Dwight Bullard, who'll be talking about his anti-fracking bill that he sent up with another legislator. He'll be proposing that for the 2015 legislation and talking about fracking. Is it good for Florida? Is it not good for Florida? And even though it's an anti-fracking bill, he's going to tell us his personal take on why he proposed this legislation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to be here with you, as always. We're so glad that South Florida Nonprofit Chamber has a great new leader. And you're listening to Vibes Live on the Robin Lynn's Productions. And we want to make sure we mention and support Robin Lynn and her company. So please visit our link on her site, which is Robin Lynn, ROBINLYNNES, productions.ning.com. And don't forget to tune in next week, Tuesday evenings, only on Vibes Live, here for our next show. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that on Wednesday evenings, here on Vibes Live, we also have a few other shows. If you go to our informationnation.info website or Robin Lynn Productions website, you'll see some of the shows that are coming up. And one that we want to make sure is promoted here on Vibes Live is the Family in Distress blog show that it's hosted Wednesday evenings Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. Again, Family in Distress is a nonprofit 501c3 based in Dania Beach, Florida, providing some great resources to this community and beyond. Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m., hear from some of the leaders of Family in Distress, in which we support here at the show. And we're lucky to be on this network. And we'll be here again next week, Tuesday evenings. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Daniel Stone. Thank you for tuning in to Information Nation, where it's my obligation to get you the information that you need to know. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.